Hey scholars, I hope you're all doing well. Ms. Perez here again with your new physics video. Today we will be doing Unit 5, Lesson 8, Reflections of Waves. So I will be sharing my screen. And for today, we're going to be needing a few things. Everything you'll have access to is on the Simplicity of Science website, Lesson 8 from Unit 5. Then we have the Reflections of Waves classwork, and there's a link here for the PhET simulation that we will be using in class today, so you need to have that open. This is what the PhET simulation looks like. And then your Google Classroom, where you accessed the classwork for today, and where you'll be uploading everything at the end. Alrighty. Starting with our PowerPoint. So again, this is Reflections of Waves, Lesson 8. For today, the materials that you will need are notebook, pen, pencil, probably need a calculator today. And again, the other 4 tabs that you should have open are the ones that I described earlier. Let's start today with a do now. So take a look at this image. What happens when an ocean wave meets the shore? Why do you think this happens? So take a few seconds to answer this question to yourself. What happens when an ocean wave meets the shore? Great. Over the past few weeks, we've studied the properties of waves and how properties of the medium or the wave can affect the sound that we hear. Today, we will begin to examine the behavior of a wave. We will use a virtual simulation to model how a wave behaves when it travels through a medium to a boundary. Studying the behavior of waves helps us understand and explain how sound can be affected based on where the sound is coming from and where the listener is. Today, we will primarily be focusing on the first part. Our investigation will have 2 parts. First, we will examine how a wave pulse in a string behaves when it meets an end where it is fixed in place. I will guide you through this part. Then you will do a second part of the investigation on your own. Throughout this investigation, keep in mind these guiding questions. What happens to the amplitude of a pulse as it travels down the string and back? What happens to the speed of a pulse as it travels down the string and back? Today we'll be using strings and not slunkies. How does the boundary of a medium affect how a wave behaves when it reaches this boundary? Okay, so we are going to be doing this through our investigation. So in a minute, you're going to open up the tab for the PhET simulation. Before, we first watch and take note of your observations in your notebook using the table in the classwork document as your guide. Then you are going to take 5 minutes to complete the second part of your own. So for now, just keep watching the video and then you'll have a time to do the second part of the investigation. So I'm going to pull up the PhET simulation. Just as a guide, here are, in your classwork, here are the guiding questions, and then this is the table that you're going to be answering. So make sure that you have something like this copied into your notebook so that you can use to fill out. Okay, I'm going to put this full screen. Alrighty, so here I have a string. I am going to go to the upper left-hand corner and hit pulse. So what this allows me to do is create a quick pulse here on this string. Right now, my end is fixed. It's hit at the clamp. So I'm going to restart this. And I am going to hit just normal speed. And as I'm doing this, watch. What is happening? Think of the guiding questions. What's happening to the speed of the wave once it's going and when it comes back? And what happens when it hits the fixed clamp? So what did you see there? Take the next minute to write down your observations. You can press pause now to do that. Welcome back. Just as a reminder, you should be sketching the wave before it reaches the end, and then sketch the pulse after it reaches the end, and describe what you're seeing. I'm going to play that for you one more time. Great. When I say press pause now, you're going to take the next 5 minutes to complete the second column in your table on your own. When you are done, press play and rejoin the video. You should also be answering the guiding questions that are below the table. Press pause now. Welcome back. Before we move on through looking at the final answers of our investigation, I would encourage you to come back to this at the end of the lesson and play around with the different functions here. You see, we talked about tension in class before, so we can see what happens to the string, to the wave, as the tension goes down or as it increases. You can also add rulers here to see how my amplitudes are changing. You can have a timer, a reference line, and up here is where you would choose to choose a loose end or no end and see how that affects my wave. All right, moving on. Let's come back to our PowerPoint presentation. So through the investigation, you should have arrived at these key points. When a wave meets an end that is fixed, it will flip or invert as it returns to its source. When a wave meets at the end, when a wave meets an end that is free to move, the wave will return on the medium in the same way that it came. When a wave meets a boundary, regardless of whether the boundary is fixed or free, its properties, speed, amplitude, frequency will not change. Make sure to copy this in your notebook. If you need to press pause now so that you have enough time to write them down, please do so. Okay. Welcome back. So here's the final diagram summarizing what we've seen. When we have an incident pulse that's coming towards an end that's fixed, the wave, the energy that's in this wave is going to bounce back, inverted on the way back to the source. So it reflects, but it inverts the reflection. In this case here, where the end is free to move as the incident wave comes in, then the wave is going to reflect backwards, but this time it won't be inverted. It will stay in it will be in the same area where it was before. For the remaining time in class, you will complete the problems on Unit 5, Lesson 8 classwork document that you opened up at the beginning of class. If you have any questions, please note them in the chat so your teacher can discuss them at the end of the video. Have a great day.